can't say it was a single event because it started very young in my childhood. I can remember when I look back on things that I'd always liked music. My parents tell me I always liked music. And they very quickly, or very early on, they chopped the legs off an old record player and gave that to me as a toy, and apparently I'd sort of spend hours listening to whatever records that they'd given me, which basically either Sinatra records or Disney soundtracks. What I do remember about it is, especially now when I hear those same things, particular Sinatra songs which stand out in my mind, it was actually the sound of the piano that I remember, or the sound of the piano which fascinated me. It's hard to say a particular composer or a particular piece. I mean, they're composers which I feel very close to, like Robert Schumann and Beethoven as well, and Rachmaninoff, the sort of great piano composers. If I would be stuck on a desert island and I'd only be allowed one composer, and just the piano, then it would probably be Schumann. But if it was all the music, the sort of orchestral music and chamber music, then it would probably be Beethoven. I mean, one that I always do remember is hearing Shura Tchaikovsky, and I think he played his last recital in the festival hall in London. And I remember going along with my best friend at music college, and we weren't really expecting, I mean, we obviously wanted to hear a great recital, but we knew that Tchaikovsky was quite old, and we knew that he was quite unreliable, and we weren't expecting too much, but it was absolutely wonderful. It was just so, it was so polished, and so much showmanship and so much energy, even though he was towards the end of his life. So that I always remember. I remember that he played the second last piece was Chopin's First Ballade. Again, this is the kind of piece that doesn't always work, even with the greatest of pianists, and we're aware of that and we're sympathetic to that. So, but I remember that he finished that, and even though it wasn't the final piece of the program, the whole audience got to their feet and gave him a standing ovation. We didn't stop applauding. I always remember that. I love playing for the audience. It just gives me that extra motivation to really give everything. And I also feel that part of me feels a little bit embarrassed to perform to the full when there isn't an audience there. If I'm rehearsing with orchestra and there's no audience, I can't do it. I just can't perform to the full. So obviously recording is a very important skill to performers live these days. Everyone that has a career has to record. So I have to learn to somehow mentally simulate the sort of the feeling I get in a concert, even when there isn't an audience there. It's a surprise that it is a step forward, I think. You notice when you play the CFX that the piano's moved on, and I don't know why. It's I think for me the sort of one of the differences is the way the sound develops as you raise the volume. Because I think before the CFX, every piano would behave pretty much the same way. You play it softly, you lose the attack, and as you increase the volume, you lose the quality of sound, to the point that you have to decide when you're playing full power whether you're willing to lose a nice sound for the sake of getting power and just volume from the piano. And with the CFX you have to treat it differently, because you can get a very clear, quiet sound out of it. All the people I've spoken to, we feel that it does, the sound does last longer, so that's another factor. It's always interesting to play because it just gives new challenges for pieces that we've already performed hundreds of times.